Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jody Hapsoro from Institut Teknologi Nasional or ItenasbdgMJody&ThalulaLLDIKTI4. Today, I will be delivering an argument and speech for today's motion on the House as a first-generation immigrant. People of color in a predominantly white country would choose to live and raise their children in an ethnic enclave. Now, in life, every individual wants the best in everything they wanted: livelihood, education, economics, etc. Thus, to live in a world in a good place is the best choice for them. And see how Jewish community built and raised USA and the entire world, for example. Now, for this topic today, before I give out any argument, we will define some vague definition of this motion in order to limit the scope of this debate. Now, people of color here means predominantly mean foreigners with different ethnicity than white people in the host country. For this example in this debate, I will limit the scope to United States of America because it is now currently the world's biggest melting pot of all ethnic and culture. And first-generation immigrant here means people that directly come from their home country to live or study or to work in America, to the host country. In this instance, I choose America. From maybe the danger of political instability or maybe some poverty in their country, and they seek to pursue a better livelihood in the host country. Now, I will give my argument on how this motion must be applied. First of all, I will give two main points on this segment. The first one being that this decision is the freedom of the immigrants of raising their offspring and how they live. And the second is to improve the ethnic image of the immigrants' culture on their host country. For my first argument, as we know, there's a saying, a mother knows what best. Parents of the immigrants' parents came to some host country for the reason I stated before, to seek better life opportunity. This means that the parents will have their offspring there, and they know what's the best for their children. They know the most optimal option to choose for their children, and for today's motion, it is the parents' choice to decide how do they want to raise their children. They have the liberty of that, and the state have no right to oblige them to follow their way of life, but the custom and rules can apply. They have their reasoning of this, and maybe they would want their children to be prideful of their heritage. Ethnic society in host country will provide the resources necessary for their offspring to grow that the host country might not have available. This will lead to stronger bonds to their ancestors and not losing touch with their original home in their heart. Moving on to my second argument about improving the ethnic image of the people, immigrants that come to the host country. For my second argument, I believe that the reason is to show the best impression of their culture to the host country. Some of the immigrants may come from a country that native feels a little bit skeptical because perhaps they come from a war-torn country that some leaders of their country have some bad impression of them. Maybe the native will feel them as if they are violent or they are impulsive and unobedient of the law, but this is simply not true. They just have a hard time to assimilate to the host country because they come from a hardship from their home country. So living in a totally different culture is going to be difficult for them to assimilate, but they will get there with this ethnic enclave. By raising a society of well-established cultural background with the people of similar background, it will promote growth of the society both for the immigrants and both for the host culture as well, to them for learning more about the immigrants' culture without them having bad impression outright to them. These immigrants will have a chance to demonstrate their way of life and how they could be assimilated to the home country, but they will be come to be understood periodically, because throwing these immigrants amidst of the totally brand new environment may result in cultural shock to them, both for the immigrants and for the host country. For the native of the host country, which will then exacerbate to maybe social exiles and xenophobia and other racism issues. So it might be difficult both for them, and it might not be the best solution to just throw them outright. So we believe with this ethnic enclave that they will have a better chance to adapt and assimilate. This is meant to promote growth as a society and prevent conflicting racial issues amongst them. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's all. I have laid out my argument. That will be all for our point for this segment. We strongly believe that this argument that I have given is a valid point, and therefore we support this motion. This is why this motion must stand. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I speak here as the Deputy Prime Minister for the motion as a first-generation immigrant parent of color in a predominantly white country who choose to live and raise children in an ethnic enclave. First of all, I have few arguments that I want to give out. Two main points. First of all is why is it important for us as a parents to raise our children in ethnic enclave is first to share a same social value. The second of all is to avoid discrimination. Moving on to my first argument, I have some words to say first. The taller the tree, the deeper its root. It shows that how much important for us as an immigrant to maintain our culture, our origin culture. As we move to another place or another country, we immigrate, we experience a new environmental, a new way of lifestyle, where there are no identity of its origin culture. So why we want it? Why is it important? Because the origin culture, it won't vanish by putting or raising your children or your kids in a strong community who has a strong belief and same the shared value of your origin culture. You raise your children in the community who awares of those culture. Culture could come in many variety of beliefs, norms, and ethnic value. By having those in control, of your environment, who you are going to immigrate with, the children could grow and give a positive contribution. For example, there are Jewish who becomes an economic pillar in America. And for another example is that how modern technology, who plays a modern technology, for example, Steve Jobs, is the son of the immigrants, Syrian immigrant. This shows how much culture really play the important role in raising the children's. The children's strive to strive in other country. And for example, Asians also, who plays important role in progressive technology, who is an immigrant from China. Eric Yuan is also a founder of Zoom. It shows that if you maintain those culture, those same social value, you could give a positive contribution. And then moving on to my second argument is that to avoid discrimination. The lone sheep is in danger of the wolves, the pack of wolves. It shows that if you stand alone in the middle of the country where you are minorities, for example, here is a predominantly white country, you cannot strive and then you cannot grow to the maximum level, to the optimal way. That is why it's a human rights for safety. Sometimes those safety comes from if we come to or include ourselves in the community where we share the same value. If we come together, we are stronger. And also, we cannot ignore discrimination that happens in white predominantly country, for example, in America, where recent accidents happened for George Floyd, who is a black man, got harassed by the police, the law enforcement that work for those white predominantly country. It shows that discrimination nowadays are still here. Racism are still alive. Therefore, for the children, for black children to see those accidents, those horrible things, it cannot maintain or to give a good environment for children to grow. The stereotyping happen also at schools. For example, there's maybe an Asian people who got recently after the pandemic happens. The Asian in America is stereotyped as the career or those who brings the virus to America. Those discriminations is happened by those stereotyping. What we have here is so much violence, and there's no safety guaranteed if you are standing alone in a major race. For example, here it's white. But also that is why we need to keep our children in safe space, safe zone, and controlled space by having them raise and live in ethic income. That is why I'm gonna conclude my suggestion, my argument about this is why it's important for us to keep our children raised in a good values, in a controlled space, but also could strive to the better way to make a contribution for the country that they are moving to. But also by giving a controlled space, you also could avoid discriminations that happen outside our control. That's all I have to say, and therefore I stand this motion. Thank you.